Hi, everybody. I have a wonderful interview coming up that I'm really excited to share with you. I have a friend of mine who I met on the plane going to a Nutrigenomics conference that we were both going to in Long Beach this past October. And we just hit it off, of course, heading to the same conference. And I just had to ask her what her background was. And she is a expert level John F. Barnes myofascial release occupational therapist. And she's one of the only pediatric occupational therapists who practices like a specific type of manual therapy called cranial sacral facial therapy. And she's in the DC, Maryland area. So if you're in that kind of area, you have to look her up. Hey, Niall.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming on board. I just introduced you briefly,
Perfect
your
timing.
background. It was perfect. I would love for you to start by kind of telling us what myofascial therapy is, because when we met on the plane, I just assumed it was facial massage.
Yeah, a lot of people do. I work in fascia, and fascia is the connective tissue that we're covered in. We're surrounded in it from head to toe. So around our brain, it's called the dura mater, and it runs through our skull, all the way through our entire body, all the way down to our feet. And it's called plantar fascia when it hits our feet. So plantar fasciitis,
Mm-hmm.
that's what that is. And we're surrounded in it. Every organ, every bone, every muscle is all covered in fascia. When it covers the organs, it's called viscera, but it's all the same thing. So dura mater, viscera, plantar fascia, it's all just fascia. It's connective tissue. And a lot of times when we're experiencing pain in the body, it's because one, our fascial system is locked down. It's dehydrated, it's thickened, like usually chronic repetitive strain, like leaning forward and typing all day long will cause a thickening in the back of the neck. And it'll cause you to kind of crunch in on yourself and be forward folded. So a lot of patients who have neck and shoulder pain, it's because their belly is tight. The tissue in the front is tight. So I go in and I release the fascia, and it allows them to kind of have a more like true posture. And the type of myofascial release that I do is a very specific method called the John Barnes myofascial release method.
So, how is that one different? Because we were talking about that briefly. How, can you
Yeah.
share how that's different from another myofascial therapy technique?
Yeah, yeah. So there are a lot of different types of myofascial release or a lot of different types of fascia therapies. I'm gonna move my so I can see a little better. There we go. Is it the
Perfect.
glare? Yeah. Um, there's the Bowen method, there's active isolated stretch, and then there's also traditional myofascial release. Physical therapists and massage therapists learn like a really kind of down and dirty type of myofascial release in school. I am not a PT or a massage therapist. I am an occupational therapist, and it's super rare to have an occupational therapist do manual therapy and do this type of work. So I never had any of those other modalities to kind of bias me. I never
Mm-hmm.
had to unlearn any of that. I came in learning this very true method, and John Barnes is called the grandfather of fascia. Rolfing is another version of fascial therapy. So there are all these other forms, and I think people who practice these other methods all say the same thing, like this is the method that works.
Wow.
Because fascia is amazing, and anytime you're addressing the fascia, you're addressing the root cause of a lot of people's injuries. But I think the reason the Barnes method is so much more effective. First of all, I was drawn to it because I wanted to work with kids with cerebral palsy, and I wanted to find a method that was very slow. And that's what the Barnes method is it uses very slow, sustained pressure into the fascial system over 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, we sink into the tissue. You think of it like warming clay, like we just put our hand on top of the clay, and the heat and the light pressure starts to melt the clay. And then because we're only using light pressure and holding it, we can feel what else it's connected to. And so we can kind of get into the flow of that full release into the entire fascial structure. So even if I'm not working in the skull, I could get a release in the skull because of the way I'm holding. It's called a piezoelectric phenomenon or pressure response. Sustained pressure over time creates a opening, a phase transition where the tissue goes from a more solidified, sticky state to a more open, lubricated, viscous, webbing-like state. So, and in
But
doing that, there's a lot of like emotion and a lot of trauma that comes up. And so another thing that makes this method so special is that John Barnes really guides us through how to handle a lot of that and dialoguing and holding space for that. So it's really, really deep level healing for people.
Niall, I would like for you to kind of go into that a little more because I've just sort of been introduced in the last maybe 6 months into this concept of genetic memory.
Mm,
And that's what you're kind of hinting at, right? That
yeah.
it's these genetic memories coming back, things
Yeah.
that are from our ancestors, not even from us, and it's weighing on us. Can you go into that just a little
Yeah,
bit?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, so you and I were talking a little bit before, and I was just saying, like, it really speaks to the amount of pressure and responsibility mothers have, because we do have this cellular memory, and a lot of it is inherited by our mothers specifically. I mean, fathers play a part in it too. Like, I
Yeah.
know,
I
but
know.
so here's the thing, like you have the embryo, and that embryo is implanted with a sperm, and so you do have the DNA from your mother and your father. And we are the genetic coding of our parents. And so whatever our parents have decided to expose themselves to, whatever choices they had made in relationships, those toxic thoughts, those environmental toxins, all of that become coded in their DNA and then passed down to us. But then you have this extra layer, and here's the mother's guilt, right? Like you
Mhm.
have the extra layer of we hold our babies inside of our bodies. If you're a biological mother to a biological baby, you, in that gestational period, the things you do to your own body will affect your baby. Right? So you want to get treated, you want to get worked on while you're pregnant for lots and lots of reasons, including like to have a healthy labor and delivery. But it's also like you want to do your work as soon as you can, and preferably before you even consider getting pregnant. Like you want to get to that very zero balance state where your body is open fascially, where you're aware of what are these generational traumas that have been passed down to you, and you're operating differently from a place of awareness. John Barnes says all the time, without awareness, there is no choice.
I love that. That's so
Yeah,
true.
yeah. So this brings awareness to your body. Like, why are you feeling this pain? Where is it coming from? What are you doing that you're chronically responding to certain stressful situations the same way over and over and over again? And it's creating this emotional pressure in your body, this emotional stress in your body. So,
Now, you were saying that you refer some of your clients to a chiropractor, to an acupuncturist, and to like emotional therapy. I don't know if that's the correct word,
yeah, like
but
mental health professionals.
mental health, because all these memories are coming back and they don't know how to process them or deal with them, right? But how would you distinguish what you do as being so different from the acupuncturist and the chiropractor?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
they're both working on the whole body. They're both kind of accessing pressure points, right?
yeah, yeah.
And the meridians.
Yeah, I work out of a chiropractor's office on Fridays. I love her. Her name is Dr. Kat Caden. She's brilliant. And so I do see the benefit of chiropractic, and I really get it. And I refer to her a lot, and we do a lot of co collaborations. Um, she's working in the central nervous system and releasing the pressure around the spine. And in doing so, it has a cascade effect. When you release the central nervous system, all of those nerves control the whole rest of the body. So, by way of the central nervous system, the pressure is released throughout the rest of the body. Same with acupuncture. It's finding specific connections and meridians and releasing the energetic blocks in those areas. And in doing so, the body comes back to balance. Sounding familiar? In doing
It
so, the
does. I
body
love
comes
it.
back. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's why the nutrigenomics pairs so beautifully. The activators, but with
Can we
my
talk to that? Can we
yeah,
talk to the you how you because I know you have to leave at 11, right?
yes, yeah,
Yeah. I would love for you to kind of go into from your professional standpoint because you were brought this nutrigenomics. So I would love to
yeah,
know what you thought when you found these activators,
yeah.
like how you what your initial thoughts were. And then I would love to know like what you've observed in your clients and even yourself, like once they started activating, what was the difference?
Yeah. Well, it's the missing piece. I mean, when I first saw it, I got it right away. There's a news
It's
clip about
awesome.
it. ABC did a primetime investigative report about it, and that was shared with me by a physical therapist colleague. He said, "You have to see this. I would love if you join me in this business. We need to share this information. This is life-changing." He's a pioneer in a lot of things. He wrote a book about myofascial release, actually. Um, and so, of course, I was going to look at it because he has so much integrity. And I got it right away. I mean, I see a lot of very chronically sick patients who have been through the traditional medical system and nothing has worked. By the time they get to me, they're desperate for answers and they're convinced that there are none. They're convinced they're a
Oh,
hopeless
wow.
case. And so I'm working against so much there. I'm working against, first of all, the mindset. I mean,
The
you're
mindset
already,
is huge.
and I don't blame them at all. I mean, they've been like screwed over by,
Yeah.
the way we look at people and like compartmentalize them as, parts of a body versus a whole. So of course they're not getting the whole picture and the whole answer. So they have that, and then they are very ill. Their bodies are not operating at 100%. Their fascial system cannot release and cannot open because their tissue is fibrotic and inflamed.
Mhm.
And so, what I've found is, of course, I had to do my research on this, and anyone who's looking at possibly taking a Nrf2 activator or Nrf1 activator or the NAD activator, known as the trisynergizer, when you take all three, I encourage you to do your research first. But what I found was the Nrf2 activator, because it's clinically proven, it's the research shows that it lowers inflammation naturally and decreases fibrotic tissue naturally by upregulating glutathione. Glutathione is the tissue repairer in
Mhm.
our body. And
Love glutathione.
yeah, I mean, it does a lot of things. Like there's a huge gut health implication with glutathione, but one of the things it does is it softens tissue. So now I'm working with patients who have their body is up-regulating glutathione and down-regulating inflammation. And so I can get a release. I'm working against those patterns, but I'm now working with this Nrf2 activator, and within 30 days, it's almost like clockwork. I've been working with this company now for about 5 years. And in the beginning, I was like, all right, I'm gonna, I know this patient is taking the Nrf2 activator. I may or may not feel it. And like clockwork, 30 days in, every single time, their tissue just started releasing and opening up like a kid. I mean, it
It's
felt
awesome.
like youthful and supple, like a kid's body does. I mean, kids don't have pain because their bodies can heal themselves. And so we really are like turning back the clock here with this thing so that our bodies can start to repair and heal itself on the inside. And the tissue releases are so much more global and satisfying. And patients are progressing faster. They're not dependent on me for therapy long term. They can get through their course of treatment, and then with like a maintenance plan and some self-treatment, they can manage a lot of their chronic stuff on their own. Could you imagine like just having everything you need to be your own therapist and not having to depend on someone to like relieve your aches and pains and all of that.
Or not even knowing, because again, until I met you, Niall, I didn't know what myofascial was. And maybe I've
Yeah.
heard the term before, but in my mind, it was like, oh, face massage. When you know, after you get your nails done, you
They
might
do
want to get,
have techniques that where you can like release the fascia right here and get rid of the crow's feet.
ooh, I'm going to see you because
Right.
I'll be booking an appointment. Now, can you talk also, because we mentioned the generational genetic memory, which, you know, even the Bible talks about this thousands of years ago. They're talking about generational curses from generation onto
Wow.
generation. So they're
Yeah.
talking about this way back then. So we've kind of always had this concept, but then we've lost it. And now we've kind of just renamed it genetic memory
Genetic memory.
or
Yeah.
or and I love that. But you were saying that your clients, so when you're releasing them, you're releasing the tissue. Um, but then that's also bringing out a lot of these toxins, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's bringing up a lot of the cellular memory. So our bodies hold trauma and it affects us in so many ways we're not even aware of. It affects our posture. I didn't mention this in the previous live, and I should have. Um, I see mothers and their kids, and fathers and their kids. Like I treat a lot of, I'm a pediatric OT, so I treat a lot of children and I treat their parents. Their postures are identical.
Oh my goodness.
The
Okay.
father's posture usually matches the son. And so there's a gender thing there too. And the mother's posture usually matches the daughter. It's like we're training our daughters to like look down and
Oh
hunch forward. I
no.
know. I
Do you
know.
know my husband is German and he walks with like a very straight back. And I see that in my, well, not my second son. I'm always like telling, but my
Yeah.
first son has the exact same posture.
Yeah.
Actually, they do.
It's, it really speaks to if you do your work and your work means myofascial release, get it out of your tissue. And that's what makes this different from acupuncture and chiropractic is I'm working in the tissue. I'm not working in the central nervous system. I'm not releasing energy here. I am getting into the dense tissue that is making us who we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you can get it out of your tissue and change your patterns, who would you be?
I
Like
love
you
that.
would be the best version of yourself.
And that's what we all want, right? And can you
Yeah.
imagine this world if we were all our best
I
version?
say that all the time, especially
Yeah.
like the other thing I say too is around money. So especially for those healers out there. So anyone who's a
Hmm.
healer out there who's watching this, what kind
Drop
of
healer in the comments.
okay, what kind of healer would you be if you were not a slave to money,
Hmm.
right? Us healers come into this world with blocks around money. We all say like, "Oh, I can't make money. I'm here to help people." Like, yes, and you are here to live an abundant life. You are here to make an impact on the world. So what kind of healer could you be? What kind of person could you be if you were operating from zero balance? And so I say that about myofascial release. I also say that about the activators because what I've seen in my own kids, and this is has been really impactful for me, um, and anyone who's interested, we have like a private group called Health Evolution that we can add you to, and I posted about this in that private group because it actually has pictures of my kids, so I don't want to share it in a public forum, but I'm happy to add you to the Health Evolution group, or Andrea can add you to the Health Evolution group if you see this and you want to be added. Just comment. um, so I have three kids. My first one is 9. My second one is 6. My third one is 4. I learned about these Nrf2 and Nrf1 activators, and back then the NAD wasn't out yet, but I was taking the Nrf2 to decrease oxidative stress and the Nrf1 to upregulate mitochondria. About a year, I started taking it when my middle child was 6 months old. And then I got pregnant with my third child about 2 years later. So it's important to know this has been in my body now for 2 years before
Hmm.
I had even gotten pregnant. And I stayed on it during my pregnancy, which, may or may not be the thing you choose to do, but I chose to do it. And then I stayed on it through nursing my third baby. I have something called MTHFR, which is a genetic
Mm-hmm.
mutation, talking about DNA memory and cellular memory, that is hereditary. So mothers carry this genetic mutation where they can't detox certain things properly, like folate, and folate is needed to create a full, like midline dural tube in your babies. So when babies are born, if the mother isn't processing folate because they have MTHFR, babies
Mm-hmm.
are often born with something called tongue tie, right? So like you can even see like
Mm-hmm.
that little guy under there, which makes
Yeah.
it so babies can't nurse. So we have
Mm-hmm.
all these babies who can't breastfeed, they're tongue tied. I'm sure people can resonate with that. My first two babies were tongue tied. My third baby is not tongue tied.
And it's no, do you know, and we have to differentiate always, I think, between the folic acid because they always tell mothers to take folic acid,
Yeah,
which
people
is
with
the synthetic
MTHFR,
version.
which is fine unless you have MTHFR. You can't process synthetic folate, which is
Yeah.
folic acid. You can't process that. And we're kind of getting into the weeds about all of that a little
Yeah.
bit, but the bottom line is I took these activators and my body was methylating through my third pregnancy so that my baby could be born without midline birth defects. You can see one of the characteristics of a midline birth defect is like a stork bite in the back of the neck, like a red
Mm-hmm.
birthmark, or sometimes here in the middle of between the eyes. That's a sign of a midline birth defect, along with the tongue tie. My first two babies have the stork bite. I have the stork bite. My third baby does not have the stork bite. She doesn't have a midline birth defect, and she probably doesn't have the MTHFR gene mutation. I probably didn't pass it down to her because I was methylating. My body has like turned on the switches it needs to turn on, and then I conceived a third child. So if that doesn't speak to breaking the genetic like trauma, I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
does. It was like observable, and I posted pictures of the stork bites, like the back of all three of my kids' heads in that health evolution group.
That is fantastic. I think it's what Dr. Hyman says when he said, um, DNA like loads the gun and your environment pulls the trigger to the
Yeah,
mother gene.
yeah,
So we can get away with this. We don't have to be a victim to our genes, to our genetics.
yep,
It's 11:01
yeah.
and I want to be respectful of your time. So I'm
Thank
so
you.
grateful you came on. I know we could just dive into a lot more, but
Yeah, thank you for inviting me to do
yeah,
this. This is so fun.
it was fun. We'll do it again.
Okay, I like
Um,
that.
Pop on questions and we'll get back to you. And if you want to hear more from Niall, we'll get back on here. If there's something specific you want to talk about or hear, we'll do that. So I'd love that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye, Niall. Thank
Bye.
you.